With a deep sense of responsibility, we come together to pay tribute to Andrew Feinberg's life and legacy. Today at this time, and then following this service beginning at 12:30 p.m., all are invited to lend comfort through their presence to Peggy and Andy's family as they mourn at their home 4971 Vista Del Monte Street. We'll begin with an opportunity at that time to lend them our strength as they recite Kaddish during a brief minion service beginning at 12:30. And we welcome you at that time and then throughout the remainder of the afternoon. We come together to honor and to remember Andrew Feinberg. We also acknowledge that we are all destined to die and that we share that fate with all who ever lived, with all who ever will live. Cry for the dead, hide not your grief, do not restrain your mourning. And when the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace, so that we might be consoled as the soul departs. Tefillah Moshe ish ha-Elohim, Adonai ma'on ata hayita lanu b'dor v'dor. A prayer for Moses, God's envoy. O God, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world from eternity to eternity, you are God. You return us to dust, saying, return, you mortals. For in your sight 1,000 years are as yesterday when it has passed. They are as a watch in the night. You engulf us in sleep. We are like grass that renews itself. At daybreak it flourishes anew, but at dusk it withers and dries up. Our years pass by speedily, and we are in darkness. Therefore teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Show mercy to your servants. Satisfy us at daybreak with your steadfast love, that we may sing for joy all our days. Let your deeds be seen by your servants, your glory by their children. And may your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands that it may long endure. Mizmor LaDavid, Adonai mi yagorbo holecha, mi yishkom b'har kodshecha. Holech tamim ufoel tzedek v'dover emet bilvavo. Dear God, who may abide in your house? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who give their word and come what may, do not retract. And those who live in this way shall never be shaken. These words of the Psalms, said to have been written by King David, remind us to look to the world around us, to look to the source of being, to look to God when in need of comfort and strength. It is said that King David wrote the words of Psalm 23 when he was struggling with the grief of the death of a child. For thousands of years, we have looked to those words when we struggle in our grief as well. And so I invite you to join me in those words of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We also look to the words of Psalm 121, which remind us, when bowed by sorrow, to in fact look up and see the beauty in the world that is present around us at every moment because of the people that who lived and that we loved. So I invite you to join me in these words of Psalm 121 as well. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? The source of my help is the source of the world, the heart of all being. Within me beats the heart of all, and knowing this I cannot falter. The source never slumbers. The heart never sleeps. It is at your right hand to protect you, at your left to offer shelter. The sun will not burn you, nor the moon mock you in moments of darkness. The way of the heart will keep you from harm, preserving your soul for meeting, guarding your going and your coming, now and forever. Jacob P. Rudin wrote, "When I die, let people weep for me and grieve, but let it be because I touched their lives. Let it not be said that life was good to me, but rather that I was good to life. Death will come. Try as we might, we cannot stay its hand. But that does not mean that we are helpless in the face of death. We can and we do rob death of ultimate victory by living life. To ask of death that it never come is futile. But it is not futility to live in such a way that ensures that when death comes, it takes us from a world, one corner of which is a little better because we were there." I did not know Andy Feinberg well, but I can share with you from all that his family shared with me. Andy was not shy about living life. And it began with his birth to Milton and Jean in El Paso, May 4th, 1946. He enjoyed life, had fun, got in a bit of trouble here and there, and he kept things interesting for his parents and his siblings, Steve, Barbara, and Deborah. From an early age, he exuded a majestic strength of character that would endear him to lifelong friends, and many of you are here today. They would look up to him for his seeming lack of concern about how anybody else thought of him. He was a constant reminder to let go and have a little fun. Many people did not really know Andy Feinberg well, but many of you did. You saw through to his bright and beautiful soul. He was there for you when you needed him, and you were there for him through his struggles. Even in these last few days, you've been there for him and his Peggy. Andy transferred from El Paso High to graduate from New Mexico Military Institute, a testament to his character that he took several of his friends to study there with him. With graduation, he signed up for the Navy Reserves and served our country, doing his duty during the Vietnam War on a supply ship supplying aircraft carriers. In the years following his return to El Paso while working in the family business, he went out for a night of fun. And that gave him an opportunity to let a very, very special person into his life. Out with the guys, he hit it off with a girl, and the rest is a story of love, of commitment, partnership, and devotion. He married Peggy January 6, 1978. One night at the disco bar steakhouse Miguel's, leading to a lifetime of love and opportunities for joy. All because a good Jewish boy listens to his mother when she says, "Andy, marry that girl." Peggy and Andy had fun together. Saturday nights in Juarez with cousins and friends, family vacations and trips to spend meaningful time with extended family. Together, they created a home that was welcoming, a home away from home for the entire family, much as his parents had done. And they raised Lindsay and Leela. He was so very, very proud of both of you. He may have shown his love and pride in strange ways, and perhaps you'll talk about some of those ways. Suffice it to say, he was a little bit of a worrier, maybe worrying a little too much. But as you shared with me, and I hope you can always remember, you never needed to doubt that he cared deeply about you. Andy cared about the people that he loved. Family meant the world to him. Barbara's death was a particularly difficult tragedy, and it rocked everyone. But even having experienced the pain of loss, he cherished any opportunity he had to deepen his relationships with friends and family. Whether in Hawaii or hosting everyone at home with Peggy, during holidays and school breaks, he wanted to be with you all. He was a fun uncle, a proud father, a grateful grandfather to Liliana and Tara. He always looked for ways to have a good time, sometimes inappropriately so. He was so very funny, dirty or serious, dirty or clean, and he was a character, irreverent, unique. He had a mind for facts and trivia, a trait he seemed to inherit from his father, and once you got through his tough exterior, you could see that Andrew Feinberg was a gentle, life-loving soul. Those who knew him best will remember his incredible strength and the way he inspired them to laugh. They'll remember the way he approached life with a passion and with profound creativity. The way another man tinkers, Andy invented. Seeing an everyday problem and coming up with a way to solve it brought him 4 U.S. patents. And from aviation to football to classic rock, he was ever ready to excite the people around him with his interests and his hobbies. In recent years, Andy's health wasn't always great. And these last few months have been particularly difficult. There were times where he wasn't himself. But you knew, and you knew who Andy was, and you loved him, and you stood with him. giving him and his family the strength and the comfort they needed to support and care for him. And thanks to the blessing of medical care in these last couple months, the truest parts of Andy Feinberg's nature shone through as he renewed his efforts to communicate, to connect, and to cherish the people that he loved. Andrew Feinberg's legacy will live on as we look for ways to be there for one another, to support each other through life's inevitable difficulties. He will live on as we take the opportunities, large and small, to celebrate the joys in life. He will live on as we ensure we find those moments of levity, that we take the time for a good joke and for a fun night out. He will live on as we take the time to create something new, to invent something that might be useful to others. He will live on as we hold our loved ones close. And as we do, we will see that Andy's memory is truly a blessing and inspiration. As we do, we will see that our world remains better than it was because Andrew Feinberg lived in it, and he continues to teach us to be better and stronger. As Hugh Robert Orr wrote, "They are not dead who live, in hearts they leave behind. And those whom they have blessed, they live a life again and shall live through the years eternal life and grow, each day more beautiful, as time declares their good, forgets the rest, and proves their immortality." We can rest assured Andrew Feinberg will live on into eternity. And now to share personal words of memory, we welcome forward Andrew's nephew, Bill, then his sister, Deborah, and then Andrew's daughters, Leela and Lindsay.
So I'm Bill Feinberg. I'm speaking on behalf of my father, Steve, who couldn't be here today. It is so heartwarming to see so many friends of Andy's and beautiful Peggy. I've known Andy for 75 years, and I thought, this is an unusual guy. He's eccentric, and his personality showed itself. And I guess around 6 or 7, and it just stayed that way. But I mean eccentric in the best sense of the word. Andy was always his own person and never was concerned about what other people thought of him. He didn't even think about impressing anyone. He was what you see is what you get. He definitely had his own style and schedule that were always uniquely Andy. He would shave and shower at 5:18 and have a good drink of his favorite scotch at 6:20, followed by a football game or a movie over a cigar. Go a little past these, and what you have is a caring, interested, and engaged friend. Someone who cared about you and was there to help. He was there for his family and friends. Andy is thinking right now they should throw a great party for me, and I am the one that can't come. We'll miss him. Love, Steve.
Thank you all for coming. Andy would have been so happy to see you, especially with today being the Sun Bowl. I have a few Andy stories I'd like to share. The first is current from Wednesday, the day we learned he had died. We live in Seattle and the airport had closed only days earlier due to a huge storm, and another was expected. My husband Doug was working on getting reservations for us and our daughter Barbara, and reported that everything seemed to be booked. The only nonstop had been canceled, and apparently the only way in to El Paso was to leave that night and fly to Tucson, spend the night, rent a car on Thursday, and drive in. We got to the airport and the plane was delayed 2.5 hours. While we were waiting, we chatted with another couple across from us, and they said that they were also going to El Paso. I asked them if it was where they were from, and they said, no, they were going in for the Sun Bowl, which was on Friday. They said they had gone to Washington State University. That would explain the WSU sweatshirts they were wearing, and that WSU was playing against Central Michigan since Miami had canceled due to COVID. I texted my niece Lindsay this story and about the Sun Bowl being the same day as the funeral, and she texted back, and I quote, "Deb, this is what he's been talking about all week." And I suddenly realized that this, Miami, Michigan, WSU, had been in the subject lines of at least 20 texts or emails I and a small group close to Andy had been receiving for weeks. Since I'm not that into football, mine had remained unopened. To get back to the flight, once on the plane, it took another hour for the plane to be de-iced. And then finally we were on the snowy runway and departed. We arrived in Tucson at 2:30 a.m., walked to the airport hotel, and got up the next day and drove to El Paso. Doug said that this was Andy's revenge. People would finally listen to him about his concerns over the Sun Bowl lineup. We made it to Andy and Peggy's in time to meet with the family gathered at the house to speak with the rabbi, gathered to share memories about our unique, funny, good-hearted, one-of-a-kind brother, husband, father, and uncle. He was a good person. Oops. Can you look in my purse? I'm missing a page. Doug. Okay, sorry. Andy was a good person. He was funny and fun. He loved jokes and telling stories. He could be difficult. He could be rude. He could be sweet, sensitive, and everything in between. He told it like he saw it. He didn't care about or try to make a good impression. He was always himself, a unique someone to reckon with in a conversation. Andy was very well informed. Before the internet, it was Newsweek and Time and People. After the internet, an endless array of websites, some a little sketchy, but always interesting. Okay. Our family, Andy's 2 kids and our 3 kids, went on some kind of a joint vacation almost every year. My kids loved Andy's stories. He would memorize a couple of dozen jokes from Playboy and other sources and other sources before each trip. Then in Hawaii, he'd sit around the pool smoking his cigar, bouncing the tennis ball off the wall, and rattling off these somewhat off-colored jokes. He loved betting on the football games and surfing, and he did both when we would meet in Hawaii at Christmas break. He was also our field guide to all of the delicatessens in Kailua. At my father's funeral, my brother Steve and I each spoke for the allotted 2 or 3 moments, trying to describe and convey how we felt about my dad. But the speech I remember was my brother Andy's. I guess because it was not really a speech. It was Andy's way of hitting at the heart of who my father was and what he would remember. Sorry. He said that every time he went on a business trip with my dad, that Melton would get his shoes shined. One time Andy told him that his shoes were fine, that he didn't need to always get them shined. And my father said that his shoes may not need a shine, but that the man needed to do the shine to make a living. And that was it. And I always remembered that story. It captured everything about my dad and about Andy too. So that was Andy, this imperfect, lovable soul with a lot of close friends who looked forward to a call from him about his bet on the football game, his latest joke, making a date for a tennis game. Some of Andy's behaviors of the last couple of years, suffering from dementia and not himself, can now easily be understood. The real Andy will always be remembered as the lovely, sweet, unique, and fun person that he was.
When I woke up this morning to brush my teeth, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Is that the damn heater? I wondered to myself. Then I quickly realized, with a smile and a little chuckle, that rain wasn't just drizzling in El Paso, it was pouring. Such an anomaly. Hi, Dad, I smiled and said under my breath. It's so surreal that we are all here today, both in person and virtually. And speaking of Zoom and face masks, while COVID has been so vicious and ugly, the silver lining for me has been the privilege of spending the better part of 2 years with my incredible parents. With remote work, I've had the fortune of hopping between El Paso and my home in New York, which is quite the concept if you ask me. Because if you know what a family-oriented person I am, this has always been the most difficult aspect of living far away. During the weekdays, while I'm here in El Paso, I wake up before 6 a.m. to work East Coast hours. And nothing would give me more joy than to walk into the kitchen and see Dad, who, after saying, "Hi, Lens," would always ask me why the hell I was up so early. "Dad," I would chuckle, "someone's got to pay the bills around here." He'd be sipping his coffee and reading the paper, making sure to point out famous people's birthdays, or ask me and Mom where he thought the hottest city in the country was the day prior. He was particularly fond of scandalous Dear Abby Q&As, and in quirky Andy fashion, loved reading the obituaries. Like clockwork, he would go on a short walk when the sun came up, and I would make him a bountiful hot breakfast upon his return. You can imagine my surprise when, upon coming into the kitchen on Wednesday morning, Dad wasn't there. Maybe he's sleeping in, I thought. I set out 2 eggs and a sauté pan on the stove and logged into work to await his arrival. By 7:30 a.m., though, I knew something was off. Later that morning, we learned that Dad had passed away sometime around midnight from cardiac arrest. With his sudden passing, writing the speech, or having packed anything other than athleisure, much less a black funeral dress in my suitcase, was the farthest thing from my mind. I can't begin to tell you how much I already miss my salty, funny, wise, quirky dad. Life is not going to be easy without him, but I will hold on to and cherish having been able to spend so much time, particularly as a non-Texas resident, with my dad during these last 2 years. I know that he's here with us today in the form of this ridiculous weather forecast, the Sun Bowl football game at UTEP that I think is still happening, and the fact that it's New Year's Eve. His curtain call would not have closed any other way. I love you, Dad, and please help guide us in navigating our lives without you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Leela, Andy's youngest daughter. First, I want to give you my sincerest appreciation for being here today in our time of grief. All of you, both physically and virtually here. It would have meant a lot to my dad. I also appreciate the opportunity to be able to discuss my dad, or as I called him, Pops. Pops was funny and loved to tell one-liners. Sometimes clean, but, you know, mostly dirty. But I'll tell you one of his favorite clean jokes. What do you call a sleepwalking nun? A Roman Catholic. The last time I stood on this bema, I was getting bat mitzvahed. I remember when my dad got up to deliver a short speech to me, and he began with the story of a famous bank robber who, when caught, was asked why he did it. The robber replied, "I did it for the money." At this point, I thought, oh no, where is he going with this? But he ended up talking about how I wanted the knowledge, which was, of course, relieving. As you know, my dad was very particular and set in his ways. He had a very rigid schedule. You could tell where he was and what he was doing just about the whole day. 8 a.m., wake up, read paper while drinking coffee, check. 9 a.m., leave for work, more reading of news and more coffee. Crack of noon, alternate between the gym or a movie theater. 3 p.m., nap. 5 p.m., shave and shower. 5:30 p.m., crack open a Bud Light, turn on the news. 5:32 p.m., consider a second Bud Light. 6 p.m., dinner. 6:15 p.m., movie on Turner Classic or DVR. So, in honor of Pops, please keep today's schedule perfectly on time. I'm kidding, of course. I'll remember my dad for many things, including that he introduced me to classic rock. He loved the Rolling Stones. The last time I was with him, we played Wooly Bully, and he just couldn't stop laughing about that song. He took Linz and me skiing in Rio Doso, and he took me on several surfing lessons. When he couldn't master the pop-up, he decided to take adult boogie boarding to the next level, going nearly every day when he and Mom were out in California. He called it surfing, and he loved to inform everyone of the water temperature. One time on Thanksgiving holiday, Mom's parents were staying with us in California, and my dad went on a hardcore boogie board sesh and came home with a broken nose. Needless to say, my mom and dad spent some hours in the ER, but he was definitely proud to have some physical evidence of his extreme boogieing. We were fortunate to be able to spend one last Thanksgiving together this year, and it was wonderful. He was so sweet and enjoyed quality time with us and his granddaughters. I will remember my father as generous, funny, at times difficult, a man with the most unique accent ever. He held 4 patents and was so proud of his inventions. I was too. I will miss him so much. In the interest of keeping to schedule and in honor of my dad, I will end here. I love you, Dad.
Early or late, all of us answer the summons to return to the source of being. For we lose our hold on life when our time has come, as the leaf falls from the branch when its day is done. The deeds of the righteous enrich us all as the fallen leaf enriches the soil beneath. The dust returns to the earth, but the spirit lives on. Like the stars by day, our beloved are not seen by mortal eyes, but they shine on forever. Theirs is eternal peace. We express our gratitude and our thanks for the companionship that continues in a love that is stronger than death. And we sanctify the name of God in honor of Andrew Feinberg. If you are able to rise, I invite you to do so for the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim Shochem Bamromim, Hamtzeh Minucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utoharim Kazar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Avraham ben Moshe David, Shalach Olamo, Bala Rachamim Yastirehu Beseter Kanafav Olamim, Vitzor Bitzor HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach B'Shalom Amishkavo, V'nomar, Amen. God of abundant mercy, God most high, may the soul of Andrew Feinberg, who has gone into eternity, find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, together with the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold Andrew close to you forever, so that his soul may be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May he find a home with you, and may he rest in peace, as together we say, Amen. May the source of life, the fountain of all good, open our hearts to compassion, our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May Andrew's memory be a blessing for us. May we never let the light of his love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all his worthy and righteous deeds. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. And may Andrew's death awaken us to the truth that the bond of love we shared and share can never be severed in sorrow, as we pray that Andrew Feinberg rests in peace. Following a private interment, we will gather to say Kaddish with the family at the Feinberg home at 12:30 p.m. And if you would wish to be present to lend your physical support, your comfort, your physical presence to the family, we invite you to join with us then at 12:30 and any time throughout the rest of the afternoon. I invite you to remain where you are as we recess from the sanctuary.